Chapter 16. Lies, Looks, and Lazarus. "So," said Jesus, looking around at the disciples' faces, "let me tell you another story. Once there was a very rich man who owned his own company. He was so rich that he had a manager to run the business for him. One day, someone told the rich man that his manager was doing a bad job. In fact, he was wasting lots of money. Of course, the rich man asked to see the manager. "What have you been doing? Not a very good job, I hear. You can't work for me anymore. That's it. Bye." The manager was so upset that he even started talking to himself. Awkward. "What am I going to do? I need to earn money somehow. I'm too skinny to dig. I just can't bring myself to beg. Hold on a minute. I think I have a plan." So he went through the rich man's papers and summoned all the people who owed the company money. Then he took a big chunk off their bills. His plan was that the people would like him and help him out when he didn't have a job anymore. But the rich man saw what the manager was doing. "That's clever," said the rich man. "You figured out a way to look after yourself." What an odd story. Confused? Have a look at what Jesus says next. "Listen," said Jesus, "this is what the world is like. People who don't know me look after themselves better than those who do. They're clever. They think about how they can make the most of what they've got. Do you do that?" asked Jesus. "Do you take what you already have and use it wisely? If you can be trusted with little things, then you'll be trusted with the big things. If you can't be trusted with little things here on earth, how can you be trusted with the big things of heaven? If you can't be trusted with other people's things, then you'll not be given your own. But remember, you can't love God and love money. You'll always think that one is more important than the other." Any clearer? Well, let's just think about it for a minute. We know that Jesus wouldn't tell people to lie, so that's not what he's saying. We know that he wouldn't tell people to love money and things more than God, so that's not what he's saying either. Jesus wants his disciples to be who God made them to be. He wants them to tell as many people as possible about him, and he wants God to use them to do amazing things. He wants them to realize that money isn't everything. People are far more important. He wants them to be trustworthy, and he wants them to love God more than anything else. There. Hope that helps. Some of the Pharisees had been listening to Jesus talking about money and were laughing at him behind his back. But Jesus could hear what they were saying and said, "All you care about is making yourselves look wonderful. But God sees what's going on inside. All these things that people think are important, they're not important to God. Before my cousin John came, everyone had to follow the old rules. But now, people have heard about God's kingdom. They've heard how wonderful it is, and they want to make sure they can get a place. But it's not about just following the rules. It's about loving God and doing what he would want. You have to be totally committed, just like in a marriage. In a marriage, God brings two people together forever. You can't just walk away." The Pharisees were still laughing at Jesus and making fun of the things he was saying. "Jesus just wants to make trouble. He's just trying to make excuses. Rules are the best." So Jesus told one more story. Imagine a rich man with super posh clothes and the best extra tasty food. Now imagine a man who has nothing. Let's call the man who has nothing Lazarus. When Lazarus was brought to the rich man's house, he was given just the scraps of food that the rich man didn't want. When the man who had nothing died, the angels came to take him to heaven to be with Abraham. But when the rich man died, he didn't end up in heaven. He ended up in hell. You remember, Jesus has talked about hell before. Go back to chapter 10 if you've forgotten. Also, Abraham who? If you go all the way back to chapter 3, you'll see that Abraham was the guy who nearly killed his own son, Isaac. Scary stuff, right? He also did lots of really awesome things for God later on. Anyway, when Abraham died, he went to heaven to be with God. The rich man would have known all about Abraham and all the things that happened to him. So anyway, Jesus carried on. When the rich man was stuck in hell, he could see Lazarus looking happy and chilled out in heaven. So he shouted out to Abraham and said, "Abraham, please, can you send Lazarus with some water? It's so hot down here. I can't bear it. Please." But Abraham said no, and explained to the rich man that piling up good things for yourself while you're on earth doesn't automatically mean good things when you die. And having nothing on earth doesn't automatically mean nothing when you die. And even if I wanted to send Lazarus to you with water, I couldn't. There's a deep ditch, and there's no way he could get to you, and no way you could ever get to him. So the rich man said, "If you won't send Lazarus to help me out, then at least send him to warn all my friends and family what will happen to them if they live like I did. Please." But Abraham said, no. God has told them again and again, and they just don't listen. "But they might if you send Lazarus or someone back from the dead. Please." But Abraham said, no. If they wouldn't listen before, they won't listen now. That's it. Harsh? It feels pretty harsh, doesn't it? But Jesus had a really good reason for telling this story. He wanted people to see what's really important to God.